All right, well, howdy, Safety Network. Appreciate all you C-certified experts coming and joining us today for this webinar with National Safety Apparel. We're pumped to have Larry here with us today. He's going to be leading this presentation. And before we pass it over to him, let me just give you guys a brief overview of not only the class, but what we're here to do with respect to this series of classes. So. As I imagine many of you guys have seen out there, guys and gals, that we're in the process of creating a series of classes that we're calling the 3E solution-based series. And what this is it's an initiative to work to help our supplier-led training events, our 3E trainings, to now be even more in line with the philosophies that we teach in our solution-based sales class. So in particular, we're focused on helping you guys gear up for that discovery phase of the sales process. And even more in particular, we're going to actually target the target opportunity sheet, helping you prepare your questioning technique so you can navigate conversations with the customer and be a facilitator of those conversations by asking intelligent questions that make sense to that person. For this class in particular, we're going to be focusing on a questioning technique associated with arc flash clothing. And so Larry's going to help us, go through and understand some of the particulars of an arc flash program, the requirements, as well as the product options that are available to help folks out. And then he's going to take some time to also, and more importantly, help us understand the pain points associated for the customers with regard to managing this program, dealing with the products, the people, and understanding what we can ask customers in regard to the challenges they face with having a really good arc flash protection program. And so then after he takes us through that area, we'll introduce our target opportunity sheet, which I know many of you are familiar with, which will be our series of research questions and identifying questions to help us go and identify if our customer we're speaking to does have any of these pains that we know are common with managing a program like this. And that way we can build ourselves up for that solution-based sale and solving those pains for them. So again, we're pumped to have you here, Larry. This is you've been a great addition to this series of classes. I can tell you flat out, from the audience standpoint, Larry has a great understanding of the solution-based sales process. In fact, he's been helping reiterate a lot of the things we focus on, and so I know it's in his mind there. So we're really excited to have somebody who fundamentally understands the way you guys are selling out there and coaching to that methodology. Larry's got well over 20 years of experience in this industry, so he's a wealth of knowledge. So we're combining that experience with his understanding of this solution-based process. So we're excited to have you here, Larry. Thank you for the time and effort you put into building this class out. And with that, man, I'll pass it over to you and let you get started.
Great.
Real quick, sorry, Larry, sorry to jump in. So for the audience, two things from a housekeeping standpoint. All your guys' mics are on mute. So we do have a question panel. So please feel free throughout the presentation, if you have a question, pull up that panel, type your questions in there. We will go over all of those questions at the end of the class. So just feel free to type them as you go. And if you want to see, Larry's face over the actual presentation, there's a slider bar in between the presentation and Larry. So you can always slide that up and down to change who has the bigger size of your screen there. But again, feel free to type your questions as we go. And Larry, for the second time, man, I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks so much, Brandon. You can hear me okay?
We can hear you great.
Great. So welcome, everybody. Excited on behalf of National Safety Apparel to talk and speak with all of you today about arc flash and arc flash PPE and the whole electrical safety program and initiative out there, and how we can help you be more productive and hopefully have more success selling into this arena. As Brandon had so kindly mentioned, I don't know if it's experience or if I'm just old. So, but anyway, I appreciate it and look forward to talking with you all this morning. There's a lot of information here. I will try not to go too quickly, but I will try not to slow down and make things boring and put you to sleep. So the agenda, pretty quickly, we're gonna address arc flash facts, who, what, and why, standards and protection, what protection looks like. And then we'll spend some time at the end delving into the questioning techniques and the strategic selling aspect and what you're learning as far as a selling technique in all of these classes. So I think most people are probably familiar, but we're going to hit on everything anyway, just to make sure that we cover the full breadth of information and trying to help everybody understand what an arc flash is and why it's important to protect people all the way through from A to Z. So an arc flash is due to an arcing fault, and it's really, for lack of a better understanding, if you haven't seen an arc flash, I suggest upon completion of this morning, go to the internet and just type in arc flash incident, and you'll have more videos than you care to look at. Some of them are fantastic. Some of them are a little bit grotesque. So be careful what you're looking for there. But it's a rapid release of energy. It's like a bomb going off. So it has a massive pressure release. So it has a concussive wave of pressure coming out. It can blow out eardrums. It can throw people across a room into a cinder block wall. The metal components within the electrical system get expelled out at massive speeds, up to 700 miles per hour. It vaporizes copper. Temperatures are 30,000 degrees Fahrenheit, so far exceeding that of the temperatures of the surface of the sun. It's a very dynamic, bad situation if somebody's drawing their unlucky straw that day. What causes an arc flash? There's a lot of things that cause an arc flash, and what you hear commonly is in any safety environment. I'm sure as safety sales professionals, you've all heard this one: we don't plan on having an accident. And that is laughable. Nobody ever plans on having an accident. But what causes an arc flash is it can be carelessness, it can be equipment malfunction. I've seen arc flash incidents investigated where they determined the cause of the arc flash was a rodent chewing through a wire at the wrong time. So, if people aren't properly maintaining their electrical systems, if workers are leaving tools behind, I saw a arc flash incident that was investigated once where somebody had been working in the electrical component, left a screwdriver behind the bus bar, closed everything up. The next time somebody went into that electrical panel and opened it up, the vacuum of opening it caused the screwdriver to fall off of where it was and land across the bus bar and cause the explosion. So there's no lack of causes for arc flash. And again, nobody plans on them happening, and they are very dynamic, destructive situations when they do happen. So who needs arc flash protection? In general, the biggest opportunity for everybody on this call is the industrial electricians or common maintenance workers within all industrial facilities. And far too often when I talk to people about arc flash, especially a good example is right now oil and gas is down, and when I talk to people who sell a lot of safety products to oil and gas, I remind them that there's this wonderful opportunity to go sell arc flash PPE, and inevitably I will hear from people, well, I don't have arc flash in my territory. I'm not fortunate to have that. My common response to that is always, oh, so you've got the territory full of Amish people. And that gets people to thinking. The only people who don't have arc flash hazards in their workplace are those without electric. So wherever there's electric, there is electrical arc flash potential hazards. So think of any business that out there, especially if they're doing any type of manufacturing. Any business has people working on electrical components. Thus, they have potential arc flash hazards, and they need to provide those people arc flash PPE. We'll talk a little bit about standards here in a couple of moments, but I'll point it out now and probably again then. You will also hear from people, my employees do not work on our electrical equipment. We contract that out. great, but you as the host employer are still responsible to make sure that anybody who works on those electrical components works on them safely. So we'll touch more on that when we get to standards. Power generation and power plants, there's arc flash there, but there's different standards that apply. Well, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. Power generation and power plants, same as electrical electricians and maintenance workers, utility workers and linemen, they have arc flash hazards, but different standards that apply, and electrical contractors. So there's no shortage of opportunities of people who need arc flash protection. The compliance requirements, the employer's responsibility is outlined in a number of standards, ANSI, NFPA, and OSHA, but primarily when we're talking about arc flash, we're talking about NFPA 70E, which is the electrical standard for arc flash safety. It's a consensus standard. It's not the law, but it is the consensus standard that everybody is adopting as a means for keeping their employees safe from the hazards of electrical arc flash. OSHA 1910-269 is the standard that would apply to the lineman. But in any essence, whenever there are any compliance requirements, it is ultimately, as with any safety hazard within a workplace, it's the employer's responsibility to conduct a hazard risk assessment, determine what the hazard is, how significant the hazard is, and what PPE is required to allow people to work near or around or on that hazard safely. And then they need to provide an education to their employees on those hazards and the proper use of the PPE. Additionally, they need to make sure that the PPE is properly maintained. So again, NFPA 70E is the electrical safety standard in the workplace, and OSHA 1910-269 is the one that applies to power generation, transmission, and distribution, so your linemen. Again, that's important. I don't hear anymore, as common as I used to, people wanting to talk about standards and site standards, and there's we'll address here in a slide or two some of the safety or the testing standards. It's not critical that you know these standards in and out. 10 years ago, it would have been. 15 years ago, it absolutely would have been. But today, they're pretty commonly understood by most people. So you don't have to go into a sales call and educate people on the standards like we had to do 10, 15 years ago. They do, in between NFPA 70 and 1910-269, do have similar arc flash requirements as far as the PPE, the personal protective equipment goes. And as we stated on the previous slide, you do need to, as the employer, conduct a hazard analysis to determine what your ARC requirements are and the proper PPE your people need to have to work safely around those hazards, those potential hazards. So some of the additional standards that I just mentioned previously, these are testing standards for garments and fabrics. ASTM F1506 is a performance standard for arc-rated fabrics. So when you provide somebody flame-resistant apparel for arc, there's a saying out there, and I don't know if we've got it in here, but arc-rated clothing is flame-resistant. All arc-rated clothing is flame-resistant, but not all flame-resistant clothing is arc-rated, and that's important. So if you're providing flame-resistant clothing to somebody to keep their people safe from arc flash, potential arc flash incidents, you want to make sure that it has an arc rating in it. And ASTM F1506 is the standard for providing or having a arc rating assigned to a fabric. D6413 vertical flame test, it's just another test that is cited within getting garments compliant to these standards. ASTM F1959 provides an arc rating on the fabrics, and 2178 is the arc rating for eye and face protection. So when we'll take a look at all of the PPE that is necessary to work safely around potential arc flash hazards. Just understand when we have our eye and face protection certified, it's different than having clothing. and the PPE worn on the body, different test methods. So when we look at NFPA 70E and we look at the PPE required to work safely around electrical arc flash hazards, 70E tells us there's 4 basic categories. You will hear people say, I need Cat 1 PPE, I need Cat 2 PPE, Cat 3 or Cat 4. That is the common terminology. This is what it looks like. For Cat 1, you're talking about complete protection head to toe. The clothing needs to be flame resistant, needs to have an arc rating of at least 4 calories. That's a measurement of incident energy that it must sustain without igniting or allowing somebody to have injury, serious injury. And Cat 2 is 8 cal, same thing, head to toe. Cat 3, 25 cal. Cat 4, 40 cal. So what does that mean? That means that as you get more significant incident energy, you need thicker or more protective clothing. Not always thicker, but typically if you look at Cat 1 versus Cat 4, there's always going to be a thickness that is obvious. Most people in the work environment today are asking for Cat 2 or Cat 4. They're ignoring Cat 1 and Cat 3. And if somebody's in a Cat 1 incident and they're wearing Cat 2 clothing, they are overprotected. And if they're in a Cat 3 incident wearing Cat 4, they're overprotected. It's much easier to manage and maintain a compliance program with just providing Cat 2 and Cat 4 rather than trying to manage and maintain 4 categories of PPE. If that does not make sense, please ask a question and we'll address that at the end. So typically what happens is, since Cat 1 and Cat 2 are just shirts and pants, very similar to any work clothing that somebody would wear anyway, Cat 1 and Cat 2 clothing oftentimes will be daily wear. People just that work around these types of hazards will wear that clothing to work all day, every day. And when they get into a panel that requires head to toe PPE, they will put on the balaclava with the face shield and put on their voltage rated gloves. Typically anything above Category 2, which requires something that looks like the beekeeper's suit on the right there, that's not something people are going to wear around all day, every day. That's task-based. It's also something that people don't get into very frequently, and they don't spend much time in it. So you'll see Cat 3, Cat 4, more oftentimes task-based, Cat 1, Cat 2, many times daily wear, but you will also see that as task-based as well if people have those workers that don't spend much time at all in arc flash hazard situations. So some of the hot topics that have come up over the last 6 months since COVID entered our world is people are very concerned about disinfecting their PPE and sharing their PPE. So we will send this out through Brandon, this presentation, so you can have all these proper links. I'm not going to click on the links and show you manufacturer's instructions for proper care and how to disinfect your PPE. But this is something, as the manufacturer, we have taken thousands of calls upon. We have end users calling us saying, hey, we have your electrical arc flash PPE in place. We want to make sure it's disinfected so our people are not getting sick from wearing it. And we send them this link and tell them the best way to disinfect their PPE. But essentially, it's clothing. Wash it properly according to manufacturer's instructions, using the warmest water setting that's appropriate. And hard hats and face shields can be washed with warm water, typically using a sponge. So this has been something that's important and people have asked a lot about, but it also leads to the next thing, which is sharing of PPE. Prior to COVID, and still out there today, since electrical arc flash PPE, especially Category 3 and Category 4, is a significant investment, many companies had their employees sharing this PPE. But now with COVID and with it really, if we get COVID under control, we need to talk about the fact that, there are a lot of sicknesses that are seasonal that go in, such as the flu, the common flu, that go in significant cycles and cause a lot of people to get sick. The last thing you want to do is share PPE. So this has been an opportunity for our customers to gather lots of sales, because they've been able to approach customers that have been sharing PPE and convince them that it makes a lot of sense to get everybody each person their own electrical arc flash PPE. The arc flash PPE lasts a very long time. It doesn't get worn a lot. So, while it does cost a lot on the front end, the typical life cycle for Cat 4 arc flash PPE is about 10 years. So, if they spread that out over the life cycle, it's not that bad, considering the alternative is maybe getting your whole electrical maintenance crew sick with whatever's going around at the time, whether it's flu or COVID-19. You don't want people going to the hospital or missing work. So this has been a big. I can't stress this enough. We have seen a lot of sales over the last 6 months, not only for arc flash PPE, but for thermal PPE, cryogenic PPE. When you think about, and we're going to take a look at different products for electrical arc flash, voltage rated gloves was something that were commonly shared that people no longer want to share. So, just think about any of the PPE that you are selling to people as safety salespeople, and think if it's ever been shared in the past, you may want to talk to your customers about no longer sharing PPE, but it certainly applies here. So let's talk about some of the products. At NSA, we sell everything head to toe that people need to work around arc flash hazards safely. When you're talking about arc flash face shields, so head and face protection, we have moved away from your traditional green face shields. If you look there, the old view, the problem with face shields that were green tinted was they distort colors. They're hard to see through in low light situations, and more often than not, when somebody's getting into an electrical panel to do some work, that's a low light situation. So the technology is now available. If you look at the PureView bottom right, it gives you better color recognition, so you no longer have to worry about, am I cutting a yellow wire or a white wire or a blue wire or a green wire? It's a bad day in an electrical panel if you cut the wrong colored wire. Also, additionally, it gives them better visibility in low light situations. We do have the ability to sell as an add-on flashlights that can mount right onto the face shield itself and allow for better visibility. But the PureView has been a wonderful success. We have it in all calorie ratings from 12 up to 100 calorie. And this is one of those situations where if you're talking to people, and we'll address this at the questions at the end, but if you're talking to people, you might want to just get in the habit of asking the simple question of, how old is your arc flash gear? Because if it's more than a few years old, there is great technology out there, not only in face shields, but in the clothing portion and the body protection that's much more lightweight and comfortable, and you can see the obvious benefits of PureView versus what was out there before. So that's an easy question I'm going to plant with you early on, is how old is your arc flash PPE? Voltage rated gloves. We stock voltage rated gloves. We're unique in that way. If you are buying voltage rated gloves for your customers currently, many of you are probably seeing lead times to get voltage rated gloves as long as 13 months. With us, we have them in stock. You might ask, what's the difference? The difference is we invested in testing equipment. We do not retest gloves, but we do have testing equipment, so we can buy voltage rated gloves untested from the manufacturer, and they do not expire on our shelves. That way we can sit with inventories to support the marketplace when the need arises. So if somebody needs voltage rated gloves, we've got them. You might have to wait a couple weeks for us to possibly test them and date stamp them, but you will get a full, very close to a full year coming out. We don't have gloves expiring on the shelf. So voltage rated gloves, they do have different classifications. They are based upon the voltages that the employee is working on. It would be very uncommon for you to find somebody who says, I don't know what kind of voltage rated gloves I need. Typically, they will tell you that they need class 00 or 0 or 2 or whatever they need. At NSA, we only carry class 000 and 2. That covers almost everybody out there with the exception of some linemen. But the needs that with the linemen are typically serviced within their own supply chain, and that's a very tough place to play. But again, class 000 and 2 are most common out there. Usually they know what they need, but your voltages are here to give you an idea of what they're used for. And we can help you out, and this table will be coming to you, but keep in mind we have them on the shelf. So far we've talked about the head and the hand as far as what is required to work safely around electrical equipment. The other thing to know about voltage rated gloves is its recurring revenue stream. The product needs to be visually inspected by the wearer. They take care of their gloves very well. It's something with PPE, most people are very good about PPE. I would tell you an electrician is better with their voltage rated gloves than they are with anything, because they know they're going to use them every day. They're going to touch a live wire every day. And if there's something wrong with those gloves, that is the last line between them and death. The gloves do need to be tested every 6 months after issue. So what many people will do is they will issue the gloves and then every 6 months replace them with brand new. It's just much easier. So it's a recurring revenue stream for all of you. I already talked about availability. What I did not touch on was the colors. We carry red, black, and yellow in all 3 classes. The body protection that is very common is Cat 2 and Cat 4, as I mentioned earlier. Cat 2 is as simple as putting on the coverall you see there on the screen, or a shirt and a pant that is rated at 8 cal. So pretty common to be able to get. There's a lot of options out there for 8 cal clothing protection. We've got a lot of proprietary technologies that are lightweight, breathable, and very much enjoyed by the people who need to wear them. With the 40 cal kits, forever it was the beekeeper's hood that people hated, and people tried to get cross-vent hoods, fans in the hoods, cross-vent fans in the hoods, and various ways to try to make them more comfortable to wear. We came out with the lift front hood about 18 months ago, and people absolutely love it. Salisbury has something very similar. I would tell you that there are a lot of nuances that make ours better. I'm not going to bore you with those details today. Just know that we've never lost head-to-head. We have them in stock, and if somebody needs 40 cal protection, there's nothing more comfortable than wearing a lift front hood. So as we look at it from a wearing standpoint, again, it's 360 degrees head to toe protection. In Cat 2, you're looking at a balaclava and a face shield. Then you're looking at a coverall or shirts and pants, and you're looking at voltage rated gloves. That's Cat 2. For Cat 4, you're looking at 40 calories of protection for all the same things. Obviously, you can get rid of the balaclava because you're wearing a hood that's rated for 40 calories. So hopefully everybody's with me so far. Now we're going to touch base. I'm going to exit out of this and we're going to talk a little bit about the questioning and strategic selling aspect. And I know most of you are familiar with this, but we've got the research questions, the identifying questions, and the magnifying questions. And I've been through a number of different types of strategic selling seminars. Um, and the most recent one aligns very well with what Brandon and the folks at Safety Network are trying to help everybody understand. And it talks a lot about pain. So I'll talk a little bit about pain, but I would tell you that as sales professionals, I'm sure you've all been through some type of sales training, and I'm sure every sales training talked about the fact that whether it's pre-call planning or whatever the terminology was used, I like pre-call planning. You need to prepare for any presentation or any call that you're going into. If you want to be successful, then put a little bit of planning in and do your research on that company and go in prepared with your research and identifying questions. You should be able to have these all scripted out based on your knowledge of that customer. And so we can go in 100% scripted with our research and our identifying questions. The magnifying questions are where we need to be earning our money. This is where the rubber hits the road. This is where we make our money, so to speak, or our commissions. You can make some assumptions going in. You can certainly have a few magnifying questions prepared, but the reality is you need to be able to react to how your customer is answering your research and identifying questions, and on the fly be able to ask magnifying questions that will help you elevate them to a position where they want to buy your products that you're trying to sell them. So let's talk a little bit about opportunity questions in a current program. So some ideas of research questions that you want to be prepared to go in and ask, and I'll tell you a little bit of why behind each one of them. What arc flash PPE are your employees provided? You want to ask this question first, and you can ask this a lot of different ways, but this helps you know if they have an arc flash PPE program in place right off the bat. You will still find a few people out there who do not have an arc flash PPE program. In that instance, you're going to have to go a little bit differently in your direction as far as your line of questioning. But fortunately, those are much rarer occasions out there. But you do want to find out what they're wearing, what they're providing them, what brands they're using, and you want to ask in the entirety, understand everything that they are providing as far as PPE for their employees. And you want to ask them if they're sharing that. Are they providing one hood or one face shield for a group of 6 people? Because that goes back to the fact that sharing is not caring. Sharing is the furthest you can get from social distancing. There's a lot of sayings you can come up with under the current COVID situation to debunk and discount why they would not want to wear or share a PPE. But we want to ask what they're wearing so we know. If you're going to go in and you want to try to sell them NSA's PureView face shields, and they tell you, 8 months ago we got NSA PureView face shields for everybody. Okay, maybe that's not a good situation for us right now. But if they're wearing Salisbury and they bought them 7 years ago, and we know that they're green, we've got a great opportunity in front of us. You want to know how many people need arc flash PPE? And how do they go about providing that? Is it daily wear? Is it task-based? We want to know this so we know how to position the solution and potentially create a magnifying question around something better. Who manages the arc flash PPE program? This comes down to, you want to make sure you're talking to the right people. This is just sales 101, identifying the decision-making process, right? So you want to make sure not only do you have the person who's responsible for the releasing the budget, but you want to know who manages it because they're going to know the pain points. Can you help me understand how the 6-month voltage rated gloves retesting process is managed? This is the biggest pain point I find for just about everybody. So, you know, the arc flash PPE, they're comfortable living with older technology. They're comfortable living with the green face shields. But the problem that everybody has out there is managing that 6-month recertification window. So if you can provide them a solution here and help them manage this 6-month turn of voltage rated gloves, you can probably get all of their arc flash PPE just because you can help them with that. What's your policy for sharing arc flash PPE? And again, you want to be very specific about this. Are they just sharing the hoods? Are they sharing balaclavas? Are they sharing gloves? What are they sharing if they're sharing anything? Because of what we have already talked about earlier in this presentation. What's the turnover rate with these jobs? So if they are providing individual PPE, what's the turnover like? What happens to the arc flash PPE if someone leaves? Many times what happens here is if they are providing it individually, they'll throw it away. So if you can help them with how to properly maintain and reissue that arc flash PPE, it doesn't help you with sales, but it helps you be a valued partner. How often do you replace your arc flash PPE, and when was the last time you purchased it? And this helps you understand how often you are going to have recurring revenues, but it's also going to allow you to have a conversation about what was that last purchase like? Was it painful for you? What type of pain did you have? What was the lead time like? I'm probably jumping ahead and hitting some of the other questions. How is the arc flash PPE stored and maintained? Again, we talked about that earlier, that right now people want to know how to maintain that properly. What sort of stocking programs do you have with your current suppliers? So if you're dealing with a electrical contractor, for example, they go through arc flash PPE often. Unlike the maintenance, the 3-person maintenance crew at the industrial manufacturing plant, those 3 people probably are there for the long haul, and they probably wear the electrical PPE a couple times a year, and they don't need a stocking program. But if you're dealing with an electrical contractor that has a workforce that's fluctuating, coming and going, and they are constantly in need of different PPE, they might need some sort of a stocking program to make sure that they have the PPE when they need it. The last thing an electrical contractor can afford is to have 10 people show up for work and not be able to send them out to the job because they don't have the right PPE to do the job that day. That's a money loser. Sorry, my screen's locked up on me. What sort of stocking programs do you have? We touched on that. What is your current provider, or I'm sorry, who is your current provider of PPE for arc flash? This flushes out who your competitor is, and you know your competitor's strengths and weaknesses better than I do. You know who your competitors are better than I do, and that's going to vary from market to market, but that's the purpose for asking that question. And what is your expected lead time? What are your expectations of a vendor? This is incredible. We ask this when we talk to end users, and they are comfortable waiting extended periods of time for arc flash PPE, and they will order ahead to accommodate some of the crazy lead times that are out there. As I mentioned earlier, there are people waiting 12 to 13 months for voltage rated gloves. There are people waiting 8 to 12 months for 40 cal kits. There are people waiting 5 to 6 months for Cat 2 kits. If you're partnering with National Safety Apparel, as I hope all of you on this call today are, we stock all of that. If we are stocked out, your lead time is going to be 4 to 6 weeks. That's your worst case scenario versus 4 to 12 months, depending on the product, which is very commonly heard in the industry. So If you ask that question, be prepared. You're going to get an answer that's going to make your eyes bulge out and start salivating because you've got a home run in front of you. It's not uncommon to be able to secure a nice Arc Flash order the day of the presentation because you found them in a situation where they're still waiting another 6 to 8 months for the Arc Flash PPE that they desperately need. So as we move into identifying questions, this is where we're really going to create some situations to make some money and create a commission situation. And these are where we're trying to get them to start talking about the pain, and they're going to associate pain to the questions we've already asked. But what sort of challenges are you facing keeping your PPE clean and disinfected? This is where you can be a valuable resource to help them know how to do it. Many times if you ask that question, at least when we're asking it of people, what we hear is, that is a major source of pain for me. My people are all over me wanting to know how to clean and disinfect their PPE, and I don't know what to tell them. So here you can step up and be a resource to not only tell them how to properly clean and disinfect their equipment, but it allows you the opportunity to say, hey, let me take a look at your equipment. Let me see what you're using. See if they're using outdated technology. See if they're using things that just look shoddy. But also you can present yourself and position yourself as the expert and their partner in this. Sharing, how often do issues come up regarding sharing of Arc Flash PPE? You might think that's a crazy question. That question alone could get you a $10,000 sale. We ask that oftentimes now, and we get the fact that, hey, we buy a large and an extra large 40 cal kit, and we share it amongst 12 people. The next question is, how often do they use it, and do they enjoy that? How many complaints do you get about it? And we'll talk about magnifying questions here at the end. How often do you experience quality or comfort issues with the PPE? What challenges have you run into getting employees to wear the PPE? So this is where you want to talk about, or you want to get your eyes on the Arc Flash PPE that they have in their current program. You want to see if it's well maintained, if it's beyond its useful life. Is it technology that's 20 years old that nobody wears anymore, and it's uncomfortable, and it's probably more of a hazard to put on than it would be to work without it. The technology has advanced so much in just the last 5 years, but if you've got somebody who's wearing something that's 10, 15, or 20 years old, it's probably a safety hazard to just put it on. Compliance. How much of a resource is your current vendor when it comes to compliance? This is something where you want to get somewhat comfortable with Arc Flash, and feel free to reach out to us at NSA and use us as a partner to help you. But we will go in on a call with you and help talk and walk the end user through proper compliance based on what their employees are doing. And you can be that compliance manager and resource that they're not getting from their current program. The current program provider is just an order taker, most likely. Management, how much time do you spend managing these programs? That's an obvious one. And what issues have you experienced managing your inventory of an Arc Flash PPE? Again, that's going to be those with lots of people in a large program. So that's it as far as the scripted questions that I have prepared. But again, sorry, I want to come back to this. So again, that can all be prepared going into the call. You can do your pre-call planning based on who you're meeting with. You know what questions you want to ask. You know where you want to try to lead them. You can even assume some of your magnifying questions. But based on your research and your identifying questions, that's where you're uncovering the pain. And I would caution you on a couple things. As sales professionals, when we hear pain, we quickly want to address it. Be a good note taker, be a good listener. I know everybody on here has heard, if you listen twice as much as you speak, you will be a much better salesperson. That's absolutely true in my experience. Be a good listener, but even more importantly, as you're listening, be a good note taker. Don't don't think that it's a sign of weakness to take notes. I've talked to a number of sales professionals over my years that would not take notes, and they said, look, I've got it in my head. I want to maintain eye contact. I don't want that person to see me as not being able to comprehend what they're telling me. It's a sign of weakness to take notes. It's just the opposite. It's a show of professionalism. It shows that you're asking questions for a reason and you care about the responses. So take good notes and don't be afraid to pause before asking a magnifying question or an identifying question and reference your notes. It shows a professional that, hey, you mentioned this, let me find these notes. Here it is on my notes. You mentioned ABC, XYZ, and then ask an identifying question relative to that, or better yet, ask that magnifying question. So take good notes, script out your questions, and leave space by your questions to write your notes. That's my suggestion. As far as magnifying, this is where you make your money. This is where a sales professional separates themselves from the competition. And this is where you really need to make a mountain out of a molehill. So you've established these pain points. And I would tell you that in my world, we don't present anything to an end user until we've either exhausted all questions we can possibly ask or until we've got at least 3 pain points. We want 3 pain points that we can present around, and then the goal in magnifying is to make that pain amplified as large as you can possibly make it. You want to take, no matter how minor that pain is, you want it to seem like the biggest inconvenience and disruption to their business, and how in the world could they possibly be expected to live with that pain. No matter how subtle or how small it is, you want to make it out that, boy, that is unbelievable that you have to live through and live with that pain. And I call that making it a mountain out of a molehill. And I know there's a lot of other terminology out there, but this is where you earn your commissions and you earn being called a sales professional. And this is where you earn being #1 in your organization or whatever your goals are. It's those people who can think on their feet and take those notes that they've taken during research and identifying questions and magnify that pain to the point where they have people very upset with you. Want the person you're presenting to be upset with their current provider or their current situation to the point where they want to make a decision, they want to change today, they can't possibly live with it for another moment. Sales is emotional. Buying is emotional. You want to play on their emotions. You want to get them emotionally charged at this point. Magnifying questions are all about building emotion to the point where people want to make a buying decision. The good sales professionals understand that, and that's where the success comes from. That's all I've got for today, and I will open it up to Brandon for any questions we've received along the way.
For sure. Thank you, Larry. That was a great summary of the major things we focus on in our solution-based sales course. I mean, I could not agree more with the way you put that. As much as we can be prepared to do our research questions, gather information about the current customer situation, craft our identifying questions, and have those pain points targeted, knowing our targets when we're walking in. Great things to do for meeting preparation, but I think you're absolutely right that the magnifying questions, when we do identify a pain, our ability to make that mountain out of a molehill, as you put it, and get them emotionally involved in the conversation, really what moves the needle in the decision-making process, gets them to the point they want to make that buy. So I think you hit the nail on the head with respect to exactly as we coach through our solution-based sales class there. So thank you for that. I will, let me check our question panel real quick and see if we have any questions coming in over here. Let's see. Oh, looks like we got a number of them for you, Larry. So, just Rosemary wanted to let you know this is very informative. She really appreciates it. Dave White, will we get this list of questions? Yes, absolutely. Larry was kind enough to work with us to craft these questions and build that target opportunity sheet. And we will be sending that list to everybody in attendance today. So Dave also asked, there used to be a class 0 that was all natural fibers. Is that completely gone?
Yes, I'm sorry, Cat 0 in NFPA 70, Dave's been around as long as me. There used to be Cat 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. They dropped Cat 0, Dave, and have determined that there is no longer any electrical maintenance work that can be done without arc flash clothing and arc flash PPE. And I think it starts at, don't hold me to it, Dave, 70 volts. So technically, when you're working on that electrical outlet in your home, you are exposed. Now, I wouldn't suggest that we all gear up. It's certainly not to plug in your vacuum cleaner. But if you're going into an electrical panel and being exposed to energized components above 50 or 70 volts, 70 says you need to be geared up.
Awesome, thank you for that one. Let's see, and you got a good list of questions here. Let's see. Sean Dent, are we going to get a copy of this presentation when finished? Sean, we will for sure send a recording. Larry, are you comfortable sending like a PDF of these slides for their reference as well?
Yeah, I'll send the PowerPoint over to you, Brandon. You can send it out.
Perfect. Well, so we'll get that out to everybody then. We'll get you the question list, the target opportunity sheet, as well as the slides and recording of this. There's another one. Nicole, thank you. We're happy you liked the training out there. Andy, he said, oh, will the questions, we've answered that one. I guess the questions are a hit for us, Larry. Everybody's asking, are we gonna get that? Send me that document. Here we go. Dave Johnson.
We're gonna get it in your hands.
Yeah, we'll do it today. We'll do it right after this thing. We'll send it to everybody. Dave Johnson asked, does NSA offer arc flash facility visits to conduct an arc flash audit on behalf of the distributor or with the distributor?
We will do joint calls with you. I want to make sure that I understand the question properly. We will go out and we will absolutely do joint calls. We are not licensed to do arc flash surveys where the company arc flash assessments, right? So there are companies that you need to hire to do that, but we can certainly come out and do joint calls and address and assess and make recommendations.
So that makes sense. For clarity there, you're saying if someone needs, and they're called like the line wire drawings and like knowing
right.
their different radiuses, you won't go to that extent, but you'll go in and help them identify if they have that work done, their solutions. Is that correct?
That's right. We cannot come out and do a hazard assessment of their electrical equipment. We're not electrical engineers, but we can certainly come out and do joint sales calls, and we can ask a lot of questions and work on our past experiences to help you move everything closer to a sale.
Awesome. And Dave, to that same question, if you do have situations, and that's for everybody out there, if you do have situations in which you need the full assessment done with electrical engineers, we do have a partner in the group called Bowtie Engineering, and they've proven to do a good job of helping the customers out in that, and they set you guys up on a commission structure. So if you bring them a deal and they end up, signing them down the line to say we're going to do this engineering session, they actually give, I believe, 20% of the revenue to the distributorship. So you guys do have a partner to help on that if you do need that full-on engineering support. But to Larry's point, if they know what they need and they're just looking for more help, NSAs are our go-to there. Let's see. Damien asked a question. Does the PeerView come in a Cat 4 kit?
It does.
It does. Okay, so we're good on that front. Scott, I would say that one. I can't say that one out loud. We have people pitching their own services to the other distributors in here. But I will say at the same time, you did mention the 6-month review of those gloves. We do have a member in this group who can help with that retesting and that recertification. So if anybody does find a customer with that need, let us know. We'll point you in the right direction out there. They're pretty proficient, and they actually help a lot of the members of the group currently in doing that process. But other than that, guys, in a quick summary here, this was a lot of information. I get Larry's an expert. He's got this stuff in his head. He can list those questions off probably on the fly for us every time. But we want you guys to have that target opportunity sheet so you have it as a reference and you can go after these opportunities with your customers. And And we certainly don't expect y'all to have all the answers in those calls. And you don't need to worry about, having the solutions. To Larry's point, it sometimes pays off to be a better listener and walk away from the conversation and just tell that customer, I've learned a lot. I think there's some things we can do to help you out. Let me get with my team and my expert supplier partners to come up with some solutions that we can look at for these various pains that we've uncovered here. So we want you guys to be good facilitators of conversations, be good at gathering the information that we need to make a sales case, and be really good at finding those pain points and magnifying those so we have them ready to act upon a solution for that pain. And if we can get everybody here in that position where you can conduct that process, gather the information needed, come back to folks like Larry and debrief him on what you found. And he'll be able to coach us down the path of here's the optimal way to position ourselves to earn this customer's business based on what you found there. And that's really what we want to facilitate. Don't get caught up on knowing all the answers. Let's more so focus on being able to conduct these meetings, gather that information, and get out there selling with our specialists out there crafting the solution. So with that, guys, we really appreciate you guys attending these and being a part of it. Larry, you got any other comments on this one?
Yeah, just one last question or one last comment. If there's anybody on the line that does not know who their go-to salesperson is at NSA, I will send my contact information out through Brandon. Shoot me a note and I'll make sure you get introduced to the right person so we can join you and support you on end user calls and you've got a resource.
Great call on that, Larry. We'll make sure we get you their information included on there. We did have one more question come in.
Okay.
Does Class 2 gloves come in a bell cuff?
No, they're straight cuff.
They're straight cuff? Okay. So, but other than that,
they do come in a bell cuff. We don't carry them.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. So someone said, yep, they do. It's just not there. So, but NSA's got the straight cuff on that one. So, with that, y'all, it's about knowing our targets, identifying those pains, and expanding on them. Oh, we have another one. Is the newer women's line only FR? Your guys' women's line that you've been carrying, is that FR or is that Arc Flash?
Both.
It's both? All right.
Yeah.
So it's covered in all
They are FR.
Awesome. So with that, it's cool. So if you guys do have additional questions, anything that comes up, feel free to, like I said, we'll include Larry's information. You can reach out to him directly. He's a wealth of knowledge for sure from doing this class. I like the way you put it. I'm going to go with experience. I'm going to go with experience and expertise. Not just being there so long.
Just old.
What was that?
I'm just old.
Oh yeah. So, but no, thank you, Larry, for helping us conduct this, and for all the C experts out there. Thank you all for attending. We will get you the information from this class here this afternoon or right after here. And please feel free to reach out with any questions, and we'll see you guys in the next one, man. Until then, have a good one.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.